Hi guys, Miss Navarro here, and today we are learning about one of the most important natural resources there is in this entire world. And that, my friends, is water. We are learning about the water cycle. Now, believe it or not, water is a natural resource because there actually is a fixed amount of it on this earth. Water makes up about 3/4 of the earth. But what's really interesting about it is that the water that you drink and the water that you see in oceans and in seas is actually reused over and over again by the natural cycle of the earth. It's called the water cycle. So, this is called the water cycle. You can start to explain me anywhere because I make a big circle. Just like all the different kinds of cycles we've been learning about. We've been learning about life cycles and plant cycles, and now this is the water cycle. I am a heavy cloud that produces rain, snow, or sleet. Some of that precipitation feeds plants and animals on Earth. Some fills streams, rivers, and ponds, and lakes and oceans. Then the sun heats up the water that are in all those streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, and oceans, and it evaporates to make clouds. When the clouds get heavy, they make rain, and my cycle begins all over again. So that's just a little intro to how the water cycle works. And to get us really started, we are going to really see how that happens just from some rain and clouds by reading a story called Nature's Miracles, There Once Was a Raindrop. So I'm going to read the story, and then you and I together are actually going to graph the water cycle. Once there was a raindrop. It's raining. Rain is made up of lots of tiny drops of water. Wow. My teacher says that each raindrop is part of the water cycle. What's a water cycle? Let's find out. Woof. When a raindrop falls to the ground, it sinks into the earth, making it all wet and muddy. Or it stays on the surface and forms puddles. This water flows into drains and into streams, or it drips underground. Woof. The drains and streams flow into lakes, and then those flow into oceans. They are all connected. But that's not the end of the story. The sun warms the surface of the ocean. The warmer the water turns into water vapor, which rises into the air. This is called evaporation. You can't see water vapor, but it is all around us and it's in the air. It's cold down here, and oh, it's warm up here. That's how our wet clothes get dry. And that's where the water in the bird bath has gone. It was full yesterday, but it evaporated. The water vapor rises high into the sky, and as it gets higher, it cools down. The cool air turns the water vapor back into tiny droplets of water. These tiny droplets of water form clouds. The same thing happens to water vapor in your breath on a cold day. Look. Brr. The droplets of water the droplets of water in the clouds get bigger and heavier. When they become too heavy to stay in the clouds, they fall to the earth as rain. If the air is really cold, the droplets freeze and fall as snowflakes or hailstones. Sometimes too much rain falls. Sometimes not enough rain falls. We mustn't waste water. No swimming today. And sometimes the rainfall is just right. Every drop of water on our planet is recycled over and over again. That's why it's called the water cycle. Great. The end. So you guys, I hope you have a better idea of how the water cycle works. And we're going to look at it a little bit closer again in this diagram before we diagram it ourselves. So like we learned in the story, that the sun helps heat up the water that is in ocean and seas. And a process called evaporation allows that water to rise up into the warm air. When the water rises up, it rises up as water vapor. And you actually can't see water vapor, but it's all around us all the time. As it evaporates up into the sky, it actually starts to cool and condense through a process called condensation. That water vapor actually condenses and those droplets attach to each other to form clouds. Clouds are formed and then the water vapor droplets in the clouds get bigger and bigger and heavier, and the wind moves the clouds all around. Have you ever noticed when you look up, you see the clouds moving? Well, that's why. So as the water droplets inside the cloud get bigger and heavier, they eventually get too heavy for the cloud to hold and they fall to the earth as rain or snow or sleet, another form of water. This process is called precipitation. As the rain falls from the cloud, it is actually precipitating down into the earth. It falls all the way down into the earth and into the ground. It sometimes falls into rivers and streams and lakes, and it continues to move towards ocean and seas. The water just keeps moving and moving in a complete cycle. When it makes its way all the way back to oceans and seas, the process is restarted, and the sun heats up the water and it moves up into the sky as water vapor through evaporation, and it starts all over again. The water cycle is very, very interesting and one of the most important cycles that we have here on Earth because, like I said, 3/4 of the Earth is actually water. So what we are going to do now is we are actually going to graph our water cycle. So you are going to need a sheet of paper and we are going to title it The Water Cycle. Spelling along with me. We are titling it The Water Cycle. The T-H-E, the water, A-T, two-letter R, E-R, cycle. That sounds like it's going to be an S, but it's actually a C that makes an S sound. Sigh, I, that sounds like it's going to be an I, but it is a Y that makes an I sound. Another C that makes the S sound. L, L, and an E at the end to make the water cycle. So the first thing we can draw in our water cycle is going to be an ocean. So I'm going to go ahead and draw half of a line at the bottom of my page. And then I'm going to draw some land because, like we learned in the story, the water sometimes falls into the earth's land and it is sucked into the land. In other ways, the water also falls into rivers and streams, and also it falls into lakes. So what I'm outlining here is the different parts of land that I'm going to draw around my body of water. So we have some land right here, but we know this is our ocean, so we will label this ocean. O, sh. It's a two-letter, sounds like SH, but it's actually a C, E, A, N, ocean. Now over here, we are going to label these two streams rivers and streams because like we learned, the rivers and streams flow into the ocean. So we'll label this rivers, R, I, V, E, R, S, rivers, and A, N, D, streams, S, T, R, E, A, M, S. So we should have our ocean labeled, which we will color blue, and then our land where we are going to draw arrows from our rivers and streams flowing into the ocean. So I will go ahead and draw arrows here, and then I'm going to go ahead and color this in. I'm going to color in my ocean blue and my rivers and streams blue, and then the land around it green, so I can kind of see the outline of how this looks. So I'm going to do that now. So as you can see, Ms. Navarro went ahead and colored in the bottom of her diagram. So I have the ocean here colored blue, and then these two arrows are the rivers and streams flowing into the ocean. And I labeled rivers and streams right here with two arrows on the side to show that they're flowing into the ocean. This green part represents the land that oftentimes is around the rivers and streams. And then I drew a brown mountain kind of on the top, so you can really see how the water falling down, which we will get to, goes into the rivers and streams and into the ocean. So next, what we need to do is, Ms. Navarro needs to find her Sharpie, is we need to look at the next step of the water cycle. So we have here that we have the ocean, rivers, and streams. So we know that the sun, which is going to be up here in the corner, really heats up that ocean. So I would like you to draw a sun in the corner of your paper. You're going to draw a sun, and you will label it sun. S-U-N, sun. So we have a sun, and then we have our ocean with our rivers and streams. So the sun heats up the water from the ocean, turning it into water vapor. So we are going to draw some arrows coming from the ocean going up to the sun. So as I moved my computer back, we have our sun and then our ocean. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some arrows coming up from our ocean going into the sun. So the sun heats up the ocean, and the water from the ocean rises as water vapor up into the sky. This process is called evaporation. So right here by our arrows, we will label it evaporation. Help me spell evaporation. E-V-A-P-O-R-A. It's A-T-I-O-N. And Ms. Navarro got kind of too close to her arrows there, so make sure you leave enough room. But these arrows are to show evaporation. So let me scoop this up. So we have our sun that heats up and has the ocean water evaporate up into the sky. So we have got evaporation labeled right here. Now, as the water vapor evaporates into the sky, it then condenses and forms, the water particles squeeze together and condense as they cool, and it forms clouds. So the next thing Ms. Navarro is going to draw is an arrow into a cloud. Inside the cloud, I'm going to write the word cloud. C-O-L-A-U-D-S. Clouds. So as we can see here, our water evaporates up into the sky and condenses to form clouds because it cools once it gets up into the sky. So although it is heating up and evaporating up, the higher up it gets, it actually condenses. And this process is called condensation. So under the cloud, we will write the word condensation. C, A, A, O, N, 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 D, 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 E, E, N, N, S, A, sh. That two-letter SH sound makes the T-I-O-N. Condensation. So, like I said, condensation is when the water vapor rises up into the sky, it cools, and the water particles attach to each other to create a cloud. That is called condensation. Now, what starts to happen is that the water vapor inside the cloud tends to get bigger and bigger and heavier. As it's inside the cloud, they are attaching to each other, the small little water particles, and they get really big and heavy. So we are going to draw another arrow into a rain cloud. We are going to draw a rain cloud that has water droplets inside of it getting big and heavy. So we have another arrow into our rain cloud. Now, inside the rain cloud, I would like you to draw some water droplets. When we go back and color it in, the bottom of the rain cloud, we can make a grayish blue color because that is what the rain cloud starts to look like. The rain cloud is really heavy, filled with lots of heavy water particles that are going to eventually drop to the earth as rain. So once the rain cloud gets so heavy, it can't hold all these water droplets anymore, they start to drop back into the earth as rain. So you are going to draw all of your rain droplets dropping out of your rain cloud. This is to show the rain is falling back into the earth. So I would like you to draw a big arrow going down to show that the rain is going down into the earth. Next to this, we are going to write rain, R, A, I, N. And another word for this, when the water falls from the heavy rain cloud down to the earth, is called precipitation. Can you say precipitation? Precipitation. We are going to write the word precipitation right under rain. P, E, R, C, I, P, I, T, A, shun. That's the T-I-O-N. Precipitation. So I'm going to finish drawing my raindrops all the way down. And this shows as the cloud is precipitating rain or dropping rain down to the earth, it goes all the way back down into the earth where it then falls into rivers and streams. And it is moved through the rivers and streams to the ocean, and the process starts all over again. Ms. Navarro is going to color in her diagram, and we will do one more review before I set you off on your own. So guys, Ms. Navarro has completed coloring in her document, so this way you can use this as a model for doing yours. So we are going to start all the way at the beginning as I explain it, and we are going to go through the entire process. So we have bodies of water on Earth. We have the ocean, and we have rivers and streams. And we know that rivers and streams flow into the ocean as water never stops moving. It is a cycle. So as the sun up here heats up, it heats up the water from the ocean, and it rises through a process called evaporation. Evaporation. The water evaporates up into the sky as water vapor. Now, when it gets up into the sky, it cools and really creates condensation by creating clouds. So it goes up into the sky and it cools and becomes heavier, and they form clouds. This process is called condensation. So the cooling of water vapor to form clouds is condensation. So as clouds form, the wind blows them and they move. And we can see this when we look up into the sky and we see clouds moving. Now, when all these tiny water particles that came originally from the ocean start to gather together in the cloud, they grow bigger and bigger and get heavier and heavier. And this is how our rain cloud is formed. As you can see, this cloud is now moved into a rain cloud, and there are big, heavy water droplets visible, not visible, but they're inside of it, very big, and it's kind of gray at the bottom because it's about to burst open with rain. And this process is called precipitation. Precipitation, as the water comes down from the cloud as rain into the earth, it's precipitating down all the way back into the earth, the land, and the rivers and streams that move into the ocean, and the process starts all over again. So this is Miss Navarro's document for the water cycle. It's very, very important. It's our most important cycle that we have on the earth. So I'm going to leave this up for you, and you can pause this and actually copy it down, or you can follow along with the video. But this is the water cycle, and it is very, very, very important. I can't wait to see all of your work.